Here's how to make almost every kind of friendship bracelet. We'll start out easy and make more complex designs as we go. First up is the super easy braided loop. This one is fun and fast to make. Start with 3 strings, a little over a meter or yard long. Then fold them in half and tie a knot at the loose ends. Tape or pin the knot to something secure and arrange the loops on your first and second fingers as shown, 2 on one side and 1 on the other. Start with whichever hand only has 1 loop and weave your next free finger through the loops on your other hand, grabbing the last loop and pulling it through. Reposition the single loop to your first finger and repeat on the other side, pulling tight in between each stitch. The downside of this type of bracelet is that it's hard to put down and pick back up again without messing up the pattern. It's best done in a single sitting, which isn't too hard since it goes pretty fast. When it's as long as you like, tie off the loops with a knot. You can easily scale up this design by adding more strings, up to 7 if you have the typical number of fingers. Just use your free finger to weave through the loops on the other hand, grab the last one, and pull tight. Then move all remaining loops up by 1 finger and repeat on the other side. Here's the spiral staircase. Start with as many strings as you like, each about twice as long as you want your bracelet to be, or 4 times longer if you want a loop at the starting end. Make a knot, and tape or pin it in place, and separate 1 strand from the rest, and begin making overhand knots that will face to the right if you're right-handed and to the left if you're left-handed, tying the single string around the rest one after another. They will naturally tend to stack up slightly offset from each other. After a few, you'll notice the whole thing wanting to twist, so you should feed the working thread behind the core every once in a while to help the spiral take shape. To switch colors, just select a different working thread and put the previous one back into the core. Pay attention to where the first knot of a new color lands and guide it to sit just below the previous knot. This bracelet is easy because all the knots are the same and you can switch to any color at any time. Be careful not to use up all of one thread before the final length is achieved. No special finishing is required to complete the bracelet. Next up, the diagonal stripe. This one also only uses overhand knots. Start with your preferred number of strings, either all different colors or doubled over to create a loop and fatter stripes. They should be about 2 to 3 times longer than your final bracelet. Splay out the strings in order and pick up the one on the left side if you're right-handed. Tie this working thread in 2 overhand knots on each other thread in order until you reach the other side. Repeat with the next string and the one after that, stacking up rows of overhand knots with each color, which will naturally take on a diagonal pattern. The more strings, the wider your bracelet will be, and also naturally, the strings will have to be longer to start with too. Chevron. Start out with 2 strings of each color and splay them out so the color order is symmetrical. For this one, we'll introduce a second type of knot. The left side of the chevron will be formed with the same right-facing overhand knots you've been using for the spiral staircase and the diagonal stripe bracelets, 2 per string. But the right side of the chevron will be formed with underhand knots made the opposite way, such that their tail faces to the left. In the middle, you can make either kind of knot. It doesn't matter. In my observation, this left-facing knot has more variation in how folks like to make it than the right-facing knot, and not just for lefties. Some prefer to make this knot with their left hand, even if they're right-handed. I happen to be extremely right-handed, so I prefer making it with my right hand. When you're learning, experiment to find out what works best for you. All rows in the chevron bracelet pattern are the same, and the colors alternate in sequential order. Using more strands of the same color will result in fatter stripes, and will require longer strings to achieve the desired length. Now that you know both of the main types of knots, you can get fancy with the way you start and finish your friendship bracelets. To make a fancy loop at the start of your bracelet, cut one strand about 10 centimeters longer than the rest, then tape your strands down just a little bit off center with the longer portion facing you. Use this extra long strand to alternate creating right-facing knots and left-facing knots around the core to build up a section as long as you like. This is sort of like the spiral staircase, except the alternating keeps the knots from spiraling. Untape it and fold the knotted section in half to begin your bracelet. The other way I've seen folks start this out is by finding the center of the longer string and looping it around the centers of the rest of the strings. The buckle loop. This is where you take your two outermost strings and create a knot that encapsulates the rest of the strings. It's best for thinner bracelets since it cinches all the strings together. The teardrop loop. This method is better for wider bracelets. Basically, you'll tie knots with each string in color order around the remaining strings and set each one down afterward. But there's a new type of knot combo here that we haven't covered yet. Instead of two right or two left-facing knots, on the right side, I'm making a left-facing knot followed by a right-facing knot. We'll call that a left-right knot. And on the other side, I'm making right-left knots. When only one string is left on each side, tie the two center strings together using whichever knots you like. Now you're ready to begin your bracelet pattern. Triangle ends. On the left side, pick up the third string from the outer edge and tie two left-facing knots around the two strings to the left of it. Join all three strings together and repeat, tying each next string around the growing bundle until you reach the center. On the right side, do the same. Pick up the third string from the edge and tie two right-facing knots around the two strings, then join and repeat with the next. Once you have completed the triangle, you can braid your ends into one or two ties, or for another option, twist both halves independently while the bracelet is anchored, then pick up the whole thing and let them twist around each other, and tie a knot to keep the twist. To wear your bracelet, it's easiest to have a friend put it on you. Fixing mistakes. Eventually, you'll make a wrong move and want to undo it. The easiest way I've found is to use a straight pin or sewing needle to pick at the stitches until they loosen. You can also use a safety pin, but it's a little thicker and a little less pointy. Hearts. This pattern starts with 4 strings of each color and a row of the chevron pattern to start out. Then pick up the second string from the edge and make 2 knots on each, facing the corresponding way. So the left string will make 2 left-facing knots on the outermost string, and the right one will make 2 right-facing knots on the right outermost string. Next, tie any knot combo you like between the 2 strings of the same color, red here, that are now next to each other, 1 set on each side. Then use those same strings to keep knotting in the directions they are facing, so the outer ones will have knots facing out and the inner ones will have knots facing in, and then they join in the center. The next row fills the heart with the contrasting color. So join each pair of like color strings, in my case the very pale pink, with double knots and then bring those inner strings together, knotting along the way. Finish up the heart with 1 row of chevron in the heart color, then 1 row of chevron in the contrast color, before repeating the whole heart again. Diamonds. You'll start with 2 of each color string. The color that you choose for the X's that go through the pattern should be almost twice as long as the rest of your strings, since it'll be used up more quickly by the pattern. This pattern only uses left-facing and right-facing knots, and if you arrange the colors in order from light to dark or dark to light, it results in this neat 3-dimensional looking pattern. Now that you've got the hang of the basics, you can apply them to any pattern you find online. If a pattern seems too difficult for you at first, come back to it after a bit more practice and try again. There are lots of free pattern resources out there, and I'll put my favorite sites and YouTube channels in the description. I love that you can take this craft project with you and work on it almost anywhere, and also the way it feels for friends to enjoy their bracelets.
Friends, 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 la 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 la, friends, la 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 la, ping.
Want to check out my next video right now? It's a really good one, and it's already streaming on Nebula, streaming service built by and for independent creators like me. I just recently joined Nebula's roster, and I hope you'll consider subscribing, which supports me directly. There, you can watch this and all the rest of my videos ad-free, including my next episode, which is Nebula First, so you can find it there already. It's about building this light-up kaleidoscope with wireless LEDs inside with my friend Deborah, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. You'll also get access to Nebula originals, like Great Cities, which tells the intriguing backstories of fascinating places and how they came to be. And Nebula classes, like How to Google Like a Pro with my friend Trace Dominguez. And more of your favorite creators teaching how they create. If you sign up for Nebula using the link below, you can get a year of Nebula for $30, or a little over $2.50 a month. Not only will you get access to all the great stuff Nebula has to offer, plus now also classes, a portion of your subscription fee goes directly to me. Thank you so much for your support. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. I hope you'll subscribe with the bell to be notified of my future uploads, subscribe to my email newsletter, and find me on your favorite social media network. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This video was made with support from my sponsors and with generous donations from viewers like you through Patreon and YouTube memberships.